Welcome to the Fence and Deck Mastery Podcast, where we discuss cutting-edge techniques, industry trends, and business insights to take your fence or deck company to the next level and dominate your competition. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fence and Deck Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Danner, and also the founder of Fence and Deck Marketers, which is a digital marketing agency that works only with fencing and decking companies. And today I have another exciting show for you that I'm really excited about. I have Laura. I should have asked how to pronounce your last name. I'm going to need some help there.
Basili. It's Italian.
Sorry. Should have thought of that before. But Laura is from Brazilian Lumber, and you probably know her. You probably follow her on Instagram. She's got a great following there under Real Deck Diva. And she's posting all kinds of great content there. And she's the co-owner and co-founder of Brazilian Lumber, which is a outdoor center supplier. I wanted to make sure I said that right. But they supply some really premium grade sourced tropical hardwoods. So she's supplying for
all the materials, right? So we have all the composites, all the big companies.
Oh, sorry. That's right. Okay. That's right. Sorry. So yeah, if you check out their website on Brazilian Lumber, there's all kinds of stuff on there. And it's not just for decks, it's for docks, fences, pergolas, and I think some other products as well.
And soffit, and now we have exciting interior wall panels too. So
nice. Yeah, I was watching some of those videos yesterday. I want to get a backdrop like that for my office. It looked pretty cool. So and that hidden the hidden room. I've always wanted a hidden room in my house.
So, yeah, I learned how to create that hidden door look. It's not. I mean, obviously you have to have handyman skills, but it's not as complicated as you might think.
Really?
Yeah. You just change the hinges and take out the hardware and put a ball type. It's like for closets. You put that kind of a hinge in.
Okay. Maybe I'm going to grab a sledgehammer and I'm knocking down this wall behind me and I'm going to make one after the show. So I might call you for some help.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Laura, thanks for coming on the podcast. I mean, how have you been doing? How are things going with you?
Good. Things have been going really great. I feel like this last year has just like gone by so quickly. We've grown so much as a company. I've grown so much as a person, a professional. And I've just had an amazing year. It's been really good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, I know we haven't really had anybody on here that's a expert in the tropical hardwoods. Typically it's, composite or wood. There's not really much in between. So I know we have a lot of clients that, advertise that a little bit. We put it on websites, but, not a ton. So when I spoke with Laura, seemed like a great opportunity to kind of talk about this. And she had nothing but loads and loads of information about it. And I've been learning a lot ever since we started talking, and I was asking her questions even before, we started recording. So, but I'll let her, she's the expert, so I'll let her talk about that more. But, Laura, I guess if you could just kind of always like to hear a little, backstory on you and kind of how you ended up in the decking industry, because after doing a lot of these podcast interviews, it's always interesting to see like where people come from, how they end up here. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of telling your story a little bit, like how, everything leading up to Brazilian Lumber and, getting involved in the deck industry.
Okay. So it started out because we were kind of accidentally thrown into the interior remodeling business. We were working with a company that did like crown moldings and baseboards, but this one client said, "Hey, I just put in some Hatoba hardwood floors, and I have the spiral staircase that's all carpet, but I want it to match my floors. Can you make a spiral staircase in Jatoba?" And we're like, "Yeah, of course." And we gave her a price, like just there, because when you're good at sales, you say yes. And then we tried to source it, and that was almost impossible. I mean, the prices that they were asking for Hatoba were way higher than anything we had quoted for building this staircase, which you had to build each stair by itself because it was spiral. So we said, well, what's if we import a container, and that way we can lower costs? So we imported our first container of wood, but then we had to sell the rest of it. And so we saw that there was a business there, and it just started from that one container, from a mistake. Isn't that kind of how everything always starts, with a mistake?
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I guess when you're kind of
Eight
well, you're not back against the wall, but yeah, a little bit, you know.
later, we have an office in Miami and a showroom and office and warehouse in LA, and almost 40 employees, and
Nice.
yeah.
Where did you start? I know you're in Miami and Los Angeles. Where was the original?
The original is in Miami. Actually, the
Okay.
original is in Hollywood, Florida. So we're already
Okay.
in Hollywood, California.
Nice. Yeah. There you go. I feel like there's a Hollywood in every state. There's one in Maryland. I don't know.
Oh,
I guess
very nice.
that's only three, but I feel like that's it's always strange whenever.
Italian, Rome in Georgia always gets me. I went to school in Georgia. I went to Emory
Okay.
University in Atlanta. And so when I would pass Rome, Georgia, I was always like, non è la Roma mia, io sono italiana.
Is it what did you go to like Bulldog? Were you a Bulldog like
No,
Georgia
I went
University?
to Emory. I went to Emory.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Okay. So I want to learn more about the tropical hardwoods, and as you know, I'm far from an expert on it. So, first question I kind of had is, all the wood that you're supplying. Well, I don't. Are you supplying all types of wood, or I know you do composites, but is it just the tropical hardwoods and then
I do
composites?
tropical hardwoods. I do thermally modified woods, and I do composites, PVCs.
Okay.
Um, I have some other products for interiors, but some vinyls for ceilings. So I have
Okay.
a great variety. Mhm.
Okay. So if you go to like Home Depot, you find your standard pressure treated deck board. I mean, how can you, well, first off, which type of wood is used for that typically? Is it always the same type for that type of board?
So usually for your deck frames, you use pressure treated wood, which is what you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's or any of the
Mhm.
big box stores. Yeah. So that's pressure treated wood, right? So that's usually domestic wood. It's usually pine or um, spruce, and it's been treated in order to last a lot longer in exteriors. So the difference with hardwood, tropical hardwood, is that you don't have to treat them, and they will still last a lot. Actually, they'll last longer than the pressure treated wood. Like, so their domestic woods that have been treated don't last as long as tropical hardwoods. Tropical hardwoods will last 70, 80 years.
Wow.
Yeah, they have a long lifetime.
Okay. And that's, I'm assuming with like some kind of upkeep, things you got to do to the wood or no?
Only if you want to keep the color. So the
Really? Okay.
integrity of the board itself isn't going to change. So the way I can explain this, kind of a technical, but bear with me, is through the Jonka hardness rating. So the Jonka hardness rating tells you how dense and how hard a wood is, right? So it's basically how much force you need for a bullet to indent a certain amount into the wood. So your domestic woods have a Jonka hardness rating of around 300 to 500. Your tropical hardwoods are going to be in the 1,500 to 3,300 range. So
Huh.
there's a big difference of how much force is needed to get into the wood. That tells you how thick and dense the wood is. Plus, tropical hardwoods have naturally occurring tannins, which they keep away any kind of rot or mold or insects or termites. Like, there's no insect that's ever going to be able to eat through tropical hardwoods.
Huh.
There's
Okay.
no mold that's going to rot it away. So that's what makes them so long lasting, that thickness. So if you want to maintain the original color, that brown, rich brown color, or golden color, if it's Garapa, depending on what type of wood it is, you will have to keep maintaining them by oiling them. So you have to put a UV protector on it. So that's like everything else, right? Like, if you left out a bright pink floating
Oh yeah.
flamingo plastic in your pool
Oh yeah.
all year long, it's going to be pale pink by the end of the year because of the sun, right? So the same
Yep.
thing happens with wood. So if you put a UV protectant coat on it, like an Ipe oil on it, then it'll preserve its color. But if you don't, the woods will turn to like a silver gray. It's called a silver patina. And a lot of that you'll see, for example, resorts. If you ever go to the Caribbean and you go to like some premium
Yeah.
luxury resort and you see a deck, it's always a gray deck, if you notice. You didn't notice before, but now you're going to notice every time.
Yeah.
It's a gray deck.
Yeah. I'll be looking
Why?
for it.
Because because the integrity of that wood stays the same. It doesn't splinter, it doesn't rot. So it's great for areas that have high foot traffic, like, for example, a resort where you have
Right.
a lot of people walking barefoot to the beach. You don't want splinters. But it doesn't require upkeep for the integrity of the wood. It just requires upkeep for the color of the wood.
Huh. And then if you lose the color, there's no way to restore it. Is it just gone for good?
You can, absolutely. All you have to do
Oh,
is
cool.
sand it. Once you sand it, it'll go back to its original color, and then you
Oh, wow.
work with it, and then it's like new. Mhm.
Oh, okay. All right. And I just had a random thought because I know contractors are always, complaining about the how aged the wood is, I guess, like typical wood that's imported into the US is very, it's only been around a couple of years or whatever. I don't know the average, but is that similar with the tropical hardwoods? I mean, how does that aging
So
process work?
I think what one of the things you're referring to is how houses that were built maybe in the 50s, 60s, 70s, when you look at the beams, the pressure treated beams in the inside, they're from trees that were maybe 70, 80 years old, and you have a lot of rings, right?
Yep,
Versus
exactly.
houses that are built now, you only see like 5, 7 rings, and it means it's from newer trees, which means that it breaks more easily. So it's like an old house has better bones, air quotes for those who aren't
Yeah.
watching the video, around bones. Yeah. Um, that's not the case with tropical hardwoods. So in order for a tropical hardwood tree to be harvested for logging, it actually has to be a dead tree. So trees die when they're old. So it's actually a very old tree, but it's no longer a seed bearing tree. So it's not helping the environment anymore, but it is helping the economy, the local economy, and it's helping our economy and trade. But it's just not helping in a biological sense anymore. It's not absorbing carbon anymore. It's not producing seedlings anymore. It's such a huge, big, old tree that's taking up a whole bunch of the canopy in the forest, which means a lot of light energy is coming in to be spread around to the little seed-bearing trees. So you can be guaranteed that a tropical hardwood is going to be very old wood.
Interesting. Okay. So do you have to find it at a certain point? Like if it's been dead too long, you can't use it? Or, I mean, how's that?
Engineers decide that.
Okay.
We have, a big forestry plan in Brazil and in other countries. And a forestry engineer comes in and decides which trees can be and which trees can't be taken. And then they mark those. They say which way the tree has to fall in order to not harm any of the surrounding trees. So it's very specific.
Interesting. Okay. All
Degree.
right.
To degree.
Yeah, I would never have guessed that. That's pretty cool. Because I would imagine, well, I don't know. I mean, so okay, it's not like a fully dead tree. I guess I'm picturing like a dead tree in my backyard.
Very old.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay. And then, all right. So what are the primary types of tropical hardwoods that are used in construction, furniture, these days?
Okay, so Ipe is the most well known. It's the hardest. It's, again, let's go back to that Janka hardness scale. It's a 3,600, 3,300, depending on what sources you read. And it's the strongest. It's the one wood that I would recommend if you're building seaside. I wouldn't recommend any of the other tropical ones if you're building, anywhere by the ocean, just because of the ocean conditions. Then after that comes Kumaru. Kumaru has this reddish brown color. It's beautiful. It's super popular right now with architects. Everyone and their mother-in-law wants to get their hands on Kumaru. Then there's also Garapa. Garapa is a golden color. Its jungle hardness isn't as high. It's still a lot higher than domestic woods, but it's not high, so it's easier to work with. So it's a little bit better for furniture. There is also Jatoba. It has a more reddish tone. And then my personal favorite is tiger wood. And tiger wood actually looks like it's got tiger stripes on it. So those are the main types: Ipe, Kumaru, Jatoba, Garapa, and tiger wood. There's
Okay.
others, Saranduba, and we can get into many more, but those are the ones that are mostly commercialized in the United States.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've created websites with at least all those. The Kumara. Uh,
Kumaru.
that one
Kumaru.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to check to see if we've done that one or not. But okay, so you kind of already talked about, I guess, like the durability. So just overall, it's just a stronger board. We know it lasts longer, but is it just a stronger wood too?
Yeah, it's a more dense wood. It's think about the tree. Let's go back to the origins. Let's go to our origin story. these are trees that had to survive in very, very humid conditions because they're from the Amazon, right? They had to survive floods and this really, hot climate and all this sun and all these tropical bugs and things trying to attack it. So over evolution, it's evolved to ward off all of that. So it's a board that can really resist all types of weather, whether it's very cold, whether hot. It can resist bugs and mold, and it's very dense. It doesn't splinter. It doesn't crack. So yeah, it's a very resistant board.
Okay. And you said it's 70 to 80 years for all those different types, or just
Boardwalk, the Atlantic City Boardwalk and Coney Island, in New York, all those boardwalks, all those public boardwalks were all made out of Ipe because that's what was sourced at the time. And they all lasted until a hurricane came through. And
wow. Huh. Okay. All right. Well, then, I guess we talked about this a little bit too, but like, what are some of the environmental impacts, of sourcing tropical hardwoods?
so it's important that you always get it from a certified company, right? So you want to ask if the company is FSC certified. FSC is the Forest Stewardship Council. They audit and make sure that all the procedures are in place and that you have all of the pillars of FSC covered, which is the economic well-being, the social well-being, the biodiversity is being taken care of. So you want to look for an FSC certified company. But then also you have to know that in order for any of these woods to come into the US, they have to comply with the Lacey Act. And the Lacey Act was an act of Congress that said no endangered species could be traded or brought into the United States. So all of the hardwoods that come into the US have to comply with the Lacey Act. Not all hardwoods have to be FSC certified. It's better if they are, but all hardwoods do have to comply with all of our national laws.
Okay. Okay. And then once they're on, you actually install these woods. Is it pretty much that oil is what's used for all the different types of tropical hardwoods? That's how you kind of maintain the color?
Up to the preference of each deck builder. Some people love the oils, some people love the sealers, some people love the mineral-based oils, some people love the vegetable-based oils because they don't want it to they want to penetrate quickly, they don't want to penetrate, they want it to evaporate. It's really up to the climate that they're installing in. But the important part is that there's a UV protectant.
Okay. Is that how often do you typically have to put that on? I guess if you wanted to keep that color, keep that shine.
So that depends on where the wood is. If it's a deck and it's in full sun all year long in Florida, you're probably going to look at every 6 months.
Okay.
If it's a ceiling or a siding that doesn't get any sun, then you're probably looking at, I don't know, every 5 years, just to be on the safe. Ceilings don't really need it at all, but if you want to be on the safe side, you can do it every 5 years or so.
Okay. So you just,
it depends on the sun exposure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you just roll the sealant on. Is that kind of how it works, or, the protectant?
When I do it, I like to dab it on with a rag.
Okay.
Or a roller, but then you want to always take the excess off. You don't want to leave an excess of oil on the wood because that can create stains and things.
Okay. Okay. And then this was all new to me when we were talking about thermowood, and I watched some videos and it's still a little confusing to me. So I was like, well, Laura can explain it probably a lot better anyways. And I'll learn when we talk on the podcast. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like what it is, the process of it, kind of how it works?
Yeah. Okay. So thermally modified or thermally enhanced woods. It's basically, the wood is heated up to a very high temperature. Usually they're kiln dried, but then after the kiln drying, they're put into they're almost baked in super hot ovens without any chemicals, right? And so the heat changes the wood on a cellular level, making it more durable and less likely to absorb water. So when it bakes the wood and takes out all the water and all the glucose and things that termites might be interested in, it makes it more resistant and it makes it less, it makes it so it doesn't cup as much or it doesn't bend as much. So sometimes it can make the wood a little bit darker, giving it a richer color too. But it definitely makes it less rot resistant and stronger,
Okay.
definitely stronger. So
Okay.
now you can use domestic woods that before couldn't be used for exteriors. You can use them now for exteriors. So now you can have a thermally treated pine or a thermally treated ash. And then there's other species that come from Africa, like ayus or iroku, but they can all be modified to be a lot more stable. So now you have straight board that's going to stay straight. It's not going to cup. It's not going to warp. Um, so it
Okay.
does make it a little bit more brittle depending on which kind of thermal treatment you use, because there's new technology now with vacuum technology where they put some water in, but they take it out, so it's not as brittle. And then, you have your acetylated woods where they put some special chemicals in to make it more water resistant and less brittle. So there's a variety, but strictly speaking, thermally modified wood is just wood that's been kiln dried and then heat treated, no chemicals added in order to make the wood more resistant.
Okay. And so that's a possibility for, is it sometimes used for any type of wood? Unless I missed that part.
Yeah, I mean any kind of wood could be thermally modified. It's just certain species are
Just need it.
need it. Some species
Yeah.
need it. You would never thermally modify a tropical hardwood, if that's the question. You would
Yeah.
never
Okay. I
thermally
was wondering
modify
that.
Ipe thermally. So Ipe and Kumaru and Jatoba and all those, they get kiln dried. You can either buy air dried or kiln dried Kumaru or Ipe or Jatoba or any of the other tropical hardwoods I've mentioned before. But they don't get thermally modified. They don't need it because they're already so resistant. These are woods that otherwise wouldn't be resistant, that become resistant through the thermal modification process.
So it's really used if you have a specific wood that you just really wanted to use, basically, that wouldn't last,
Same
or
the ones that we found on the market that needed it and that are used easily are very commercial woods. So, for example, ash or ayus or pine even, you can use it for siding, and it's really easy to install. The beauty of these thermally modified woods, they're super easy to install. You can use nail gun. When you're installing tropical hardwoods, you have to pre-drill, screw, et cetera, et cetera. With these, you can use a nail gun and install them and pop out the job in a day and build
huh.
a beautiful soffit or beautiful siding.
Huh.
So it's
Wow.
like a person goes and says, like, oh, I have bought these boards. Now let me find a company that will thermally modify them for me. No, you buy thermally modified
Yeah.
boards
Right.
that are
Okay.
available, actually already have been decided by the industry and with best practices.
Okay. So if you kind of compare that to like the standard process of, pressure treating wood, it's just another alternative basically to it. I mean, just another way
Yeah,
to kind of
yeah, and it's a chemical free way, right?
chemical for, okay. Okay.
So pressure treated wood does have chemical additives in it. Obviously not copper anymore. That was, in the 70s when we had that problem. But it does still have some sort of chemical impregnation into it, versus this is not. This is just taking the extra moisture out of the wood and taking the extra glucose and glycogens and any of that out of the board and making the cells all uniform.
Okay. And how would you say they compare, I guess, the ones that are treated with, thermal wood versus like your standard pressure treated? Are they pretty comparable, or what's the difference there?
No, not at all. I
No.
am. So usually they're actually just used for different things. So pressure treated wood is used to usually create deck frames. Most of us build our deck frames either in aluminum or in pressure treated wood, and the great majority of the country uses pressure treated wood. You wouldn't really use a thermally modified wood for that. You would use thermally modified woods more for aesthetics, like a siding of a wall or a
Okay.
soffit siding. It would make it really beautiful and elegant, whether it's on interior or exterior. And the beautiful thing is, for example, we have a milling machine where you can create different patterns in the wood. So your deck board, you can create it like fluted look or, like a grid cladding look. You wouldn't really do that with a pressure treated wood. So
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. All right. And then, so I guess weather conditions, it's pretty resistant to all that. It's kind of like, you don't have to worry about it too much. Sounds like
no, not at all. Again, the color you
the
gotta have
color. Yeah.
in order to keep the color up. But other than that, it'll resist all
Okay.
temperatures.
Okay. All right. And then, yeah, we were talking about this a little bit before, but I've heard this kind of debate quite a few times. The CCA, I forget what it stands for, but and you touched on a little bit before, CCA versus ACQ. So I guess the copper versus alkaline, I think is what the A stands for. So was this like a big, I guess, when did the thermal wood come about? I mean, was this
Yeah, well,
recent
but I
or?
think it's been around, not thermal wood as we know it now, but the idea of burning the wood a little bit to make it more resistant has been around for centuries. I mean, the Vikings used to do that, right? So the
Yeah.
Vikings were sheep herders a lot. You know, they had a lot of animals and they had to keep them fenced in. And those fences, that takes a lot of labor. And you want your fence to last, especially in those climates where you have all the snow. And what would they do? Would they take the wooden posts of their local forest and they would burn the posts a little bit before putting them in the ground because they knew that that would make that more resistant. There's an entire town actually in Japan. There's a Japanese treat. I don't know if you've seen the Japanese treatment. That's like a black charcoal look for siding. It's becoming
I don't think
popular
so.
now. Okay, so that is there's an entire city in Japan that you'll see like it's black charcoal look because they figured out that when they were living so close together, there was a lot of fires, and in order to make the city more fire resistant, they said let's fireproof the buildings by burning the wood a little bit
Huh.
because when it's burnt, it's not going to ignite as easily. Yeah,
Hmm. So everything's just completely black or?
it's like charcoal. It's like
Oh, okay.
blackened. It's like a smoky blackened look. Mm.
Gotcha. Okay. All
So,
right. So,
so what I'm trying to say is the technique is very old. The technology nowadays, I think, stems from the 70s in Finland. It started. The Finns, Scandinavians, they have lots of forest. They decided that in order to commercialize their forest products better, they needed them to become more resistant. And so they came up with these ovens and the technology to extract all the water the and all the other things that
mhm.
animals are interested in.
Yeah.
Um, and they started commercializing that in the 70s, the Finnish, the Scandinavian countries. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Well, if you, since,
But
you
charring is really an ancient technique. So okay, let me, the sticklers out there.
know,
Modifying and charring are two completely different things, but it's a way of using fire and heat to enhance the durability of a wood. So, the thermally modified wood is not the Yagusuki wood. It's not the Yagusuki technique. That's the Japanese technique that I was telling you about, the charred. But the idea of changing the cells of the wood on a molecular level to make it more uniform, to make it more stable, that's you know an ancient technique, but that now has been refined through technology. In the 70s it started, and now obviously it's been improved upon.
gotcha. Okay. Well, if you were to, big piece that I'm sure you get this question all the time. One of the first things when somebody learned about tropical hardwoods is the price. So how does it typically compare, the different tropical hardwoods versus, pressure treated or some of the composites out there too?
Well, some of the composites range, right? So we know
Yeah.
that you have your
Hmm.
premium lines, you have your PVCs versus your composites, you have no name brands, you have really well named brands. So composites have a big range, right?
Oh yeah.
When you're talking about the price of tropical hardwoods, they usually are higher than your pressure treated wood that you get at a Home Depot or Lowe's. But there are tricks to getting your tropical hardwood for less. There are. And we can go over them. I actually do a lot of videos. You can buy random lengths. You can use shorts. Shorts have a lower price per board per linear foot than longer boards. So there's a lot of ways that you can get very, very high quality tropical hardwood for less. And so some species are also like typically Ipe is higher in price than Kumaru, but they're very, very similar as far as their properties and very beautiful. So there's a lot of ways to get this the price down, but yeah, they are a little bit more pricey than
Okay.
and just on the dimensions of the wood, right? So like
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like it's I mean, obviously a lot, you're getting a lot more for those hardwoods versus your standard wood, but the like composites, I know they range. I mean, every manufacturer has a huge range themselves of like, how long they last and things like that. And that comes along with a steeper price. Would you
I
say
have
that like,
one brand of PVC that I sell that retails at $8 per board foot. So
gotcha. Okay. So all right.
that's
So
not the price of eBay. Definitely eBay is cheaper than that.
yeah, I gotcha. Okay. Um, so if somebody was using a tropical hardwood, anything contractors have to do differently, to work with that type of wood?
So it is important to know that you will have to pre-drill before you can screw. And it is important to know that it'll go through your drill bits a lot faster. So you want to have a lot of drill bits on hand because it will dull them a lot quicker since it is so thick and so hard.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, and then at Brazilian Lumber, I was looking at the website, your social media stuff. You guys sell all kinds of stuff, not just, deck boards, even though that's what we've been primarily talking about. What are some additional things that you guys are selling and, working with?
So again, we have the tropical hardwoods, we have the thermally modified woods, we have all the composites and PVCs, and now we also have the Dominico, which is a company that builds beautiful vinyl ceilings. I mean, they really are beautiful. You have like 10 different color ranges. They have 10 different patterns on each of the boards so that it looks really natural, and it's paper thin. So if you have an area where it's going to be really hard to install something, the Vinilico is going to be a great option. And we have deco panels now for interiors, and you can get these waved looks or the square looks or the rounded looks, and those are all going to be panels for interior decor. And you can just glue them onto your wall, so it's really easy to use. I mean, I'd still hire a professional because I don't trust myself. I've done enough deck building projects now that I'm no good.
I gotcha.
But it is a relatively a do-it-yourself kind of product, and so we're really excited about that.
Okay. Okay.
The idea is always to have the best products, the most innovative products to enhance your exteriors and now your interiors as well. And one of the biggest changes for us has been also being in partnership with Grad Concepts. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're
I
the
don't think
clip-in
so.
system. Oh, it's really cool. So it's a way of really reducing your deck install time or siding or ceiling install time by over 50% because you pre-groove your boards on the bottom. You put down these rails. They have these aluminum rails with these plastic clips. The plastic's the same that you use for ski boots, so it's very resistant. And then you take your board and just click it in. You
Huh.
click in the pre-grooved board into these clips, and you're done. Deck's installed. Like even I could install a deck with Grad. I have. I've created a little dance floor in our office with Grad Concepts. So.
Nice. How long has that been around? When was that introduced?
So we as a company introduced it this year, but it's a technology that's been around for over 20 years. It's
Okay.
a
Okay.
originally European technology. Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, going forward, we talked about like, government intervention, things like that with tropical hardwoods. We talked about the Lacey Act, but you said there's something that's coming up here that's going to kind of could affect the import of tropical hardwoods. So can you talk a little bit about that and what's going on with that?
Okay, so yes, so they're looking to put Ipe and Kumaro on the sites list. For those who don't know, the sites is a list that says which species are allowed to be traded, which can be deforested and which cannot. And the idea is always to protect the forest, right? So it's always done in the best interest of the wildlife. So this cites the Convention of International Trade and Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. So it's not just for Ipe wood, it's for all kinds of different wood, plants and animals. But yeah, there's talk of putting Ipe and Kumaro on the sites, which will make it a lot more difficult to import it into the United States, and thus, make it a little bit harder to get. But we always have always followed all the legal procedures. So we will always have Ipe and Kumaru available for clients.
Okay. Okay. And then when contractors are thinking about tropical hardwoods, I mean, it'd probably be helpful anyone that's not. I mean, typically who you see that want to work with those over composites or something else. I mean, any kind of trends you could talk about there, maybe like specific types of areas that, want that type of product on their deck or, in their house, wherever, versus others, any kind of trend there.
Trends. So the whole idea of like biophilic living, having like a piece of nature in your home with you, living chemical free. Anyone who wants that kind, who's aspires to living that kind of a life or philosophy or wants to incorporate that, I think would want to use wood, especially tropical hardwoods because they're not chemically treated. They're not treated at all. Like they just are kiln dried. I think it's also a status symbol for a lot of people to have an Ipe deck or an Ipe siding because people know that it has a certain cost and upkeep. But I think a lot of the market is also going towards some great composites that now look very similar to woods and don't require any maintenance. So it's really up to the client. But if we're talking about trends specific for tropical hardwoods, I think Kumaru has gotten a lot of traction. It's so beautiful and it's less expensive, but it still gives you all the properties of a tropical hardwood. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, would you say it's more like more upscale houses, homes that are usually more interested in like more wealthy individuals too?
Probably it's not going to be used on your standard cookie cutter house. And I think it's also regional. I think some regions of the country use it more than others. That might be because of, affluency in those regions of the country, but it also might just be preference. Like, as I said, like maybe some people who want to have only all natural products versus maybe in other parts of the country, that's not really the issue to them.
Yeah. Okay. And at Brazilian,
giving choices. I like choice. Like I think that's one of like the best things about America is we have choices. We have it all. We have all the products. And you get to choose, so that you have whatever your client wants and whatever you're comfortable working with. We have it here.
Yeah.
I like to. I never think one's better than the other. I just think they're options, and I like to give people options, and I like to give people new technology, and that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, I understand. So, and at Brazilian Lumber, you ship everywhere, right? In the U.S., is that right?
Caribbean, we do international.
Caribbean too.
We do all over the nation.
Okay.
And we can even ship like everything from just a board to a full container. So if you say, "Oh, I need a container shipped to Charleston," okay, I'll ship it directly from Brazil to you and connect.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't really sure how that worked, to be honest. I don't know all the ins and outs of like how manufacturers ship all the boards and stuff to everyone, but that's cool that you ship it anywhere.
It's all containers. For those who are listening, I'm pulling up a little mini container.
Oh yeah.
On camera, but nice. Yeah, little containers, and they come in these little pallets, and that's how it's shipped.
Cool. And to contact you guys, is it best to go through the website or just give you a call? What do you typically recommend?
Yeah, you can call us. You can chat with us on our website. You can contact us through all our social media. We're pretty open to any whatever your style of communication is. We'll go with it.
Yeah. Okay. And can you get them off the website? I remember looking. Is that something you can do orders or through there too as well, or do you have to call?
No, it's better to call just because we can use better shipping rates.
Okay. That makes sense.
And there's other things like sometimes people want to maybe I don't know, they want to do grid cladding on an Ipe board. And that's not recommended. So then you can have that's the nice part about Brazilian lumber. You have experts who can guide you. So maybe your client wants something, or maybe an architect designs or a designer designs something, but it actually shouldn't be done that way or couldn't be done, or we've had we just have a lot of knowledge that we can give and give clients. And that's part of the service that we give is saying, I know you want to use Kumaru and you want to, install it using clips, but then I really recommend that, you use 12 12 inch instead of 16-inch joists, that kind of thing. So it is better to talk to a customer service rep.
Okay, that makes sense. And since, like you stated, vast majority, well, maybe not, a lot of composites are very well known, and the hardwoods are a little bit more niche. So, if you're, the contractors that are listening to this, I mean, what would you say about, ones that are maybe considering offering that more? Anything that might, help sway them, I guess, to, offer that to more customers and kind of push tropical hardwoods a little bit more, I guess. Anything you can add to that?
Yeah, so it's a great way to show an expanded portfolio, to show that you have a lot of options for the clients. It's a great way of showing that you really know your products. I would say call me, get samples. I can send out samples to you. I can give you, like a board that you can have, or even just like one of those little rings that has samples on it. You can have it in the back of your truck and you can show it to clients. And if clients like it and they're willing to pay the price for it, or, then you have an extra trick up your sleeve, because
Yeah.
somebody else is going to offer it. Somebody else is going to have it. Why not have it and then, start working with it and get comfortable with it, or, at least have it as an option there and know a little bit more about these woods so that you can talk about it with a certain amount of knowledge.
Yeah. And I feel like just knowing who you're talking to, I mean, anybody that's done a lot of sales, you kind of get a feel for that person and what they potentially could like. So, I mean, all the stories that you've told about, where the wood comes from, like all the history about it, there's a lot of people out there that like that, obviously. So, I think it'd
And
be a good
honestly,
option to
it's a
have in
way of
general.
also being able to create really lasting relationships with architects and designers. So, a lot of deck builders, they go out to a customer, a homeowner, they sell that deck, and then they're done. I mean, maybe they have a maintenance package with that homeowner once a year, but other than that, it's a one-time sale. If you are working with tropical hardwoods, that's a way of getting to designers and architects. And the designer and architects are going to recommend you over and over and over again. So this is a way of increasing your business.
So you're saying, like architects in general, that's just kind of what they just like it because, I mean,
Take it. Yeah, there's I've found that a lot of architects really like the natural wood look. Mhm.
interesting. Okay. All right. Well, anything,
For
I guess,
interiors too, you might want to use thermally treated wood for an interior wall to get a nice cozy feel, or a beautiful ceiling accent. And so knowing about these thermally modified woods and knowing that you can use them for interiors as well, and offering them and having samples of them for you to show, it's just a way of really expanding on what you can offer.
yeah, I like that. Especially if you can get a sample, like you said, that you can just carry around with you and have, I guess, another option. Or from a website perspective, I would have to look up how often that's searched, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that are typing in, specific types of wood or, tropical hardwoods in general. So if you have that on your website, that's just another, reason for them to come to you. And it
You're
sounds
correct.
like,
It's going to give
yeah,
you an edge up.
yeah,
Just
and it
not
sounds,
showing up and saying, "Do you have that?"
yeah, yeah,
eBay.
yeah, yeah. And I
I'm
mean,
looking for that. I can offer you that. No, it's eBay. Just pronounce eBay. And there you go. That you already sound like you know what you're talking about.
yeah, we got my head spinning a little bit, I guess, because just from a marketing perspective, you could definitely gain an edge, and I mean that would probably be better customers, I would imagine too, that are like, okay, I want this specific type of wood. I don't know. That would be in my head. They're probably more upscale and willing to spend more because they probably know about it and willing to pay more. That's what's in my head, anyways. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it
And then
seems like it can be.
by speaking a little Spanish. You want a secret? You want a secret on how to speak Spanish? I'm going to teach you Spanish really quickly. Are you ready? Spell out socks.
SOCKS.
Yeah, there you go. Eso sí que es. Eso sí que es. That means yes, that's it in Spanish. Sorry,
Yeah,
I forgot.
I don't remember that one. Yeah, I wish I took more than like 3 years of Spanish. I always feel like I always wish I knew it better. And so it's very hit or miss and mostly miss. But all right, anything else? Anything additional you'd like to add about hardwoods or anything we've talked about today before we kind of conclude today?
No, I just would encourage everybody to have, an open mind to tropical hardwoods, to thermally modified woods, to, do one project just to see what it's like and be able to talk about it with more, you know, real knowledge and have it in your hands. I mean, just feel the difference between a tropical hardwood. It's so hard, it's so heavy. It sinks in water. Did you know that? There's another cool fact for you. If you're ever at a cocktail party and press, not all wood floats. Ipe sinks in water. That's how durable,
Huh.
like that's how heavy it is.
Huh. All right, so don't make a boat out of Ipe, I guess.
Yeah, and then just, do your due diligence, make sure that it's an FSC certified company that you're buying from, that it's all, great quality,
Okay.
A grade, unless you're going for something cheaper, then you can buy B grade, which is also fine. And don't think that because it's a tropical hardwood, it's going to be too expensive. There are certain blowout sales, there's certain sizes, there's certain dimensions, board lengths, random lengths. Like there are certain ways to get this type of wood for a lot less than you would think.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And guess start with contacting you guys if you have anybody listening has any questions about it. And yeah, I think that's about kind of all the questions.
If you're ever like tight on building a deck, you can always use deck tiles. We sell these pre-made tiles that you just put together in less, in no time at all. You just click them in one into the other and you don't even have to build a deck, but you have a deck.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Yeah, I think Laura, that's pretty much everything I have for you question wise, and I appreciate you coming onto the podcast and sharing your wealth of knowledge. And if anybody wants to reach out or talk about any of this with them directly, or you're interested in new suppliers, that kind of thing, you can check out the website. Just go to Google. It's BrazilianLumber.com. And Laura's also big on social media, as we were saying in the beginning. So Real Deck Diva is her Instagram and TikTok. Are you on anything else? Just those two?
So and as a company, Brazilian Lumber, it's Brazilian_lumber is also we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Pinterest, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Google My Business, we're everywhere. You're gonna find us.
Okay. All right, perfect. Well, there you go. And
but yes, I'd love it if you guys would follow and give me a little follow and Real Deck Diva.
Yeah. You do some good videos.
Project for me, so
yeah, you do. I can tell you spend some time on your videos, and it's a good account. It's worth following. I know mine can be a lot less exciting, but yeah.
I mean, you don't dress up in pretty floral dresses and walk on there.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do a deck walk with me. I've actually had quite a few deck builders do a deck walk with me, and we have some fun. So
I'm down. Maybe a deck expo. We'll have to find one.
We'll do a deck walk at expo.
There we go. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing everything there, and going forward with the Fence and Deck Mastery podcast. It's been great. I've had a lot of awesome guests that have been coming on recently, and just like Laura. So I'm going to keep doing that. I keep reaching out, and we've been honestly pretty booked up, and sometimes double booked for the week. So we'll have some new ones that are in queue coming out, and then this one should be out shortly too. But yeah, if you don't mind, a big thing with our podcast, it is growing. And if you can leave a review, subscribe to it, it does help with rankings. So it's a big help to us. And but that's kind of it for now. If you want to talk marketing, since that's what we do, we didn't talk about it too much today for once. So maybe that's a breath of fresh air for.
Love to talk about. That's another. Yeah, so if we're gonna do that, we let's take a selfie, a virtual selfie.
There you go.
Let's take a selfie. Are you ready?
Yep.
That way we can start marketing that way. Nothing a good selfie won't. Ready? Smile. There we go.
I don't know why I was leaning into your phone. I was like thinking it was actually like sitting in front of you. But yeah, if marketing's our thing, obviously. So if you have any questions for that, reach out to us through our website, deckfencemarketers.com. We're on all the social media channels. We do the monthly webinars. You guys probably get my emails for those, but yeah, that's it. I appreciate Laura for coming on here and talking about this, and hopefully we'll see you at Deck Expo.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.